One of the greatest gifts this podcast has given me is to connect with people that make me pause and stop for a second, because they make me look at things I've taken for granted in a new light. This time is no different, and I think it will be the same for you. I am Regina Larco, and you're listening to #Impact, a podcast about stuff that matters. If you've been listening here for a while, welcome back. I appreciate you coming back over and over again. And you will notice that this time, after our conversation ends, you won't hear anything anymore. No outro, no comment from me, no call to action, because what Jane shared with me was just so powerful and beautiful. I just wanted to end the episode with her voice. It's actually a first, because usually I always have kind of like reserved that right to have the last word on the podcast. With Jane, I wanted her to have it. I'd be curious to hear what you feel, what you hear as you're listening to this podcast. And if you're new here, I want to send you a big hug and a warm welcome to our community here. We actually meet once a month for virtual coffee breaks, and you are very welcome to join. You can learn more about that at #impact.com/club. The writer Jane Houng, former musician, businesswoman, and teacher, is a long-term resident of Hong Kong. She received a master's in writing for children and young adults at Fairmont College of Fine Arts in the US in 2014 and has published 7 children's books. Tragically, in 2017, Jane lost her daughter, Rebecca Dykes, to rape and murder. She has since established a charity in Greece called Becky's Bathhouse for refugees and launched a free panic button for vulnerable women called Becky's Button. Also, this autumn, the first of an annual event called the Rebecca Dykes Memorial Workshop will take place in Pennsylvania in the US for writers writing about extreme violence for children. Her memoir, Beirut is More Beautiful by Bike, will be published in late 2022. Jane.
Hello.
Welcome. Welcome to
so much.
#Impact podcast.
So lovely to see your face again.
I remember that moment when we actually got to hug at the Hong Kong Literary Festival. Well, oh my goodness, when was that? That seems like a million years ago. But that was wonderful to actually see you in person there, although we had connected online before. But I remember that moment, giving you a big hug.
Well, if you remember, I came because you were speaking, and I was very interested to learn more about podcasting. And it was a fascinating forum. And it was so well attended. So, yeah, a very pleasant day. It's a happy memory for me as well.
Jane, I wanted to bring something up I heard on one of my favorite podcasts, On Being. I don't know if you know that one. Do you listen to that one too? I'm like in love with Krista Tippett. I hope she listens today. And Krista, if you do, please let's all hang out for a coffee together. Jane, you and me.
Yes,
Krista,
please.
Can we do that?
Yes, let's go. I think she's based in Minneapolis, isn't she? And you know what? I listened only 2 days ago. She was talking to Ocean Vuong, the marvelous young Vietnamese American writer. I adore her podcasts. Yes, I find them very inspiring.
And there was one episode in particular that I had to listen in repeat twice. And I honestly, sometimes I would listen to episodes several times, but not in a row. Like after I stopped listening, I had to listen again. And it was the episode, How We Live with Loss. And in that episode, right in the beginning, Krista, with her beautiful voice, says, becoming whole is not about eradicating our wounds and weaknesses. Rather, the way we deal with losses, large and small, shapes our capacity to be present to all of our experiences.
I can resonate with that. I can resonate with that very much. We talk a lot these days about healing, and all I can say as a bereaved mother is that I do feel deeply wounded, and it's almost 5 years now, and that wound still festers, but I must take care of it, and I must understand that it's going to take some time. But it'll be there always. But there's so much I want to do in the rest of my life, as I say, just to take reasonable care of it so that it doesn't poison, go septic, or I have to fight. I have to go on. I have to do what I can in my daughter's name to try to reduce violence against women.
I would actually, because as I understand, you, as a writer, came into this world of charity work with the big purpose of remembering your wonderful daughter and building this legacy. And I would just like to take a moment to, can I get to know her a bit? Because I feel if I would have known her, that we would have probably been friends. It's just the way I imagine her being your daughter. Let me remember Becky.
She was a sweet daughter, very easy to bring up. She had a sunny personality. She was dominated by her elder sister, but she took it, and they were great friends. She was so easy. She had lots of friends. She was always popular at school. She wasn't that academic, but she was good enough to get her all her exams and go to university. She was a very thoughtful child. We always used to laugh about the fact that she would give us the most perfect presents. We'd say, well, Becky, how did you know that? I'd really like that. So, and what came out in her funeral, and it was a little lesson for me, actually. I mean, what people say at the funeral, at one's funeral, because so many of her friends came out with stories which demonstrated that she was extraordinarily thoughtful and kind and fun to be with. So it is a great loss. And I mean, the link about Becky's bathhouse, the link to Becky's bathhouse is that, of course, I was lost at the beginning, but a friend of a friend called me, and he'd lost his sister to a drunk driver, and he was a British builder. So I didn't know him, but he said, look, I'm in Greece, and I'm building these showers for refugee women and children. Most of them are Syrians, and all I can tell you is that it's really helping me get through the loss of my sister, just to do something positive. And Rebecca, while working in Lebanon, worked mostly with Syrian and Lebanese refugees. So there was the connection as well. And charity work was very new to me. And actually, the refugee crises around the world were very new to me. I mean, I'd listen to her and I'd express enthusiasm, and I'd kind of wondered why she spent all her time socializing with the people she worked with and how she was passionate about her job and always reading these heavy tomes, refugee policy and this kind of thing. And so I just thought, well, this I've just got to take this offer from James, his name was. And then he said, oh, maybe I can put Rebecca's name on the wall, we say in memory of my sister and Rebecca. And I said, oh, yes, please. And then you know the rest. I mean, I went there and I just thought it was a fabulous operation, supplying hot showers and clothing, simple clothing to women who didn't have any showers. So it was a very basic need, but I bumped into psychologists there who said, actually, what you're doing for these women and children maybe is more valuable than what we're trying to do, which is, give them all the talk about, how to get through their problems, but just give them some dignity, give them some peace, give them a beautiful towel to dry their bodies after a hot shower and a new bra and a little bit of makeup, dry their hair, and they go out feeling human again. So I loved it. And it for one reason or another, it became Becky's Bathhouse. And to date, we've served about 15,000 women and children.
I'm, speechless. It's amazing. I think most of the people now listening will today maybe go into just their shower and taking out a fresh towel in a different way. How special it actually is, what a privilege it is to be able to do that. And I mean, in the times we live today, I'm now based in Vienna. We are so close geographically to the Ukraine. There are refugees coming in I'm meeting them in the MTR, because on the way to the school of my children, there is this center where they are being welcomed, and it's absolutely, I don't even find the word for it, because I don't want to say heartbreaking, because it's more than that. To see me with my 3 children in tow going home to our safe house and meeting a woman with her child in a stroller that have just lost everything. And, then the what you provide these refugees, these vulnerable women and their children, is, I think there isn't even any kind of value you could put on that, how valuable it actually is. You couldn't put a dollar price on that, how much you give them.
And when you meet these people face to face, like you just described, it does put a different perspective on things, doesn't it? Because the women that I meet in Greece, they're not crying, they're not moaning, they're not complaining. They're laughing, and they're trying to enjoy a cup of tea together and just trying to do normal things. It's not all drama and heartache and tears, because they want to live a normal life. And what can we do as more privileged people than just to give them a little space to do that? So it's been very, very meaningful for me. And whenever I'm feeling low, I just have to go on our Facebook and just look at some of those photos of the little children being washed, or the women nattering over a cup of tea. It's incalculable. Yeah, it's priceless for me. It just, yeah, it kills that kind of all that pain. Of where's my daughter.
And that really struck me and I hear that in your voice as well, Jane. I mean, I see your face and I see you smile at me, but I hear that in your voice as well, how you made that conscious decision of living. And I'm sure it wasn't always that way. And maybe there are moments it isn't that way still, and it will never be.
Yeah.
Well, you will never be that same person. That thing that struck me so much was in that podcast I listened to, where you shared about your story. And then you said, I have a choice here. I could cry forever. I lost my daughter. But of what use am I to the family, to the world, to myself, if I just feel so full of despair?
Right. And I still feel like that. It's a choice. It's a balance. It's a fine line. But I could spiral upwards, into heaven or somewhere, or I could just drop down into misery and despair. And of course, there are so many problems in the world as we speak. And I like to think that sort of, I don't know, indomitable human spirit and resilience and those kind of things. It's the only way for us to keep hopeful that things will get better. It's the only way. And putting things in perspective a little bit, the Ukrainian war is a disaster, isn't it? And and we can see so much now, but and those poor people and the poor men there, fighting and struggling and the barbarity of it. And then I read that in World War II, 50 million men lost their lives. And one woman lost 9 sons, some German woman. So all our problems are, what can I say? It's not very helpful to anyone to kind of over dramatize our own personal problems. I think more and more that, this kind of self-pity is self-importance. Who am I? I lost my daughter, but tens of thousands of parents have lost their children. The statistics are, in the last year, I think there were 11 or 12 women who lost their lives through femicide, through being killed by a man every hour last year. So these the problems are huge, and so I don't want to despair. I want to continue in my own little way to try to make the world a better place.
Just so like we say here, doesn't it? It does sound so cliche, Jane. And I keep almost rolling my eyes when I always ask my guests that. But aren't you proof of that? That you are making the world a better place with what you do there for the women that come and came to the bathhouse, that will still continue to feel that safety and that normality. I love how you said that, like that's what they long for as well. And yes. I don't know, I guess maybe almost, and this now just actually came up for me as we are talking now, maybe for you as well, although
I'm
this
listening.
awful thing happened to you, that you are still allowed to feel joy in your life as well, in moments when, I think you said that, I heard you say that, I listened to something today where you said the opposite of grief is joy. Was it like that? No, you said it much more beautiful. But
Well,
that you are allowed to, we are humans, we are allowed all these emotions, right?
yes. This has been a spiritual quest for me, as well as other things. And look, poets have said this, have expressed this concept so much more beautifully, and prophets, the Bible, Zen Buddhists, Tao Te, the Chinese philosophy of Taoism. It's like, and I'm into this more and more. Yeah, but the opposite of grief is joy. The opposite of suffering is joy. Without suffering, then you can't experience joy. Or put it another way, maybe your joy is more joyful after you have suffered. Suffering brings an awareness. It's certainly changed my worldview in many ways. So this thing about there's no good without evil, there's no light without darkness. Interesting. These are all human concepts, but I'm very aware that that the suffering, it is suffering that I've gone through. My poor child. But it's given me it made me appreciate life more, actually, and made me really enjoy the good things of life when they come. Appreciate them more.
Mm. I know that a lot of our listeners are working in the social impact space as well. Many in NGOs, charities. How was that for you then to go with that? Well, with that experience, with that life experience, with that trauma as well, into that totally new sector of work for you, coming from the creative space as a writer, musician, totally, I guess, out of your element as well as a beginner.
Look, the administrative side was hard work, because I wanted everything to be well organized. The experience was so fascinating because I was surrounded by so many people telling me all these stories of where they'd come from and what had happened to them. So I sort of felt I wanted to kind of write everything down, and I still would like to make some kind of compendium of women's stories. Saying that it's an underbelly of society makes it sound a little bit kind of seedy and derogatory, but it's not at all. It's almost the opposite. By going into the charity business, there we go, the charity world, I've met all these amazing people who were just trying to help with no bottom line, and certainly no kind of materialistic incentive or hopes to enhance their self-esteem or something. They were very humble people who just gathered together. I'm talking about on Lesvos in Greece, which Becky's Bathhouse is next to the worst camp in Europe, and so there were people from all over the world, and they'd just kind of flown there and just said, okay, we want to help. A little bit like what's happening in Ukraine. There are certain people who will just pack their bags and think, right, I'm going to help out. And I'd never met those kind of people before. So it was really refreshing, fascinating. And then And it brought home to me, I suppose, that there are so many problems in this world, and just to kind of flit about on my privilege in my privileged little space in Hong Kong is sort of, I don't know, a little bit superficial and meaningless. I compared to going to these places and talking to these people. Something's on my mind, so I'll just spit it out. But I've come back from Greece. I was there only about 3 weeks ago, and I carried with me the Becky's buttons, which you mentioned at the beginning, these panic buttons, which I've had designed and manufactured in China, and I carried them in my suitcase, 300 of them, and I got them to Becky's bathhouse, and I thought, and there were about 80 women there, and I gave a presentation to them about how to use it, and at the end of the presentation, 3 women came up to me directly, and they could hardly speak English, of course, and one of them spoke through an interpreter. But one of them told me that she wanted one right now because she'd seen her best friend raped. Another one was crying because she said, I saw, this was a woman from Congo, I saw my mother being killed. And then another one came, and she had seen some army men hurting children badly, let's say. So it's kind of brought it really home to me. What I'm trying to do could really help some people, and this is their lives. I mean, they're not saying it to kind of get attention or things. It was just, this has happened to them, and please give me a button. I want one right now because it will help me. And it made things so worthwhile.
And this is a button that they could carry with them on their body. So in case they find themselves in a dangerous situation, they can press the button so that there would be a sound coming from it for gaining attention, so someone could come help, right?
Exactly. It's a simple design because I've designed it for refugees, and refugees are always with other people and often in tents. And so there's, so it is a very loud bell, a siren really. And it's about 3 inches big, and it's clippable. You can clip it in your bra or somewhere. I don't want it to be seen. Who knows whether this is a good design? It really will be very effective way. But the woman can press it, and it will emit this 135 decibel sound, and then she can switch it off if she depresses it for 3 seconds. But I don't know whether you've ever been in a hotel when a fire alarm has gone off, and it's just the right level. You think, I can't stay in this room. I better get out. It's got an edge to it, this. And so if a man is coming on you, this will stop him. It'll stun him. It will surprise. And I'd like to think it would give the woman a few vital seconds to run. So let's see. I've got a project manager who's so kindly agreed to take it on, and as long as it's being given out to refugees in Greece, then I'm all the hard work to kind of create it will be worthwhile.
Trauma traumatizes, but it also transforms.
Oh, Regina, you have been listening to my podcast.
I'm quoting
I remember saying that somewhere else.
I'm quoting back all these things I heard you say because they made me stop and think. And that's always when I get speechless. It's usually, when I ramble on, I'm still trying to figure out what to make of it. But sometimes, and I think it shows in how you share your story, is that you are married to words as well and language, and that is I think it's very powerful. And sometimes just a few words can go so deep and say so much. And when you said that, trauma traumatizes, but it also transforms. It's beautiful.
Well, I suppose it's the alliteration, that also makes it memorable. But it is a beautiful concept, isn't it? And I think I'll just speak for myself. I'm very moved by beauty, and Becky was beautiful, and I see the beauty on refugees' faces when they smile and so happy that they're clean and their hair's washed, and it's very powerful. It in terms of if the refugee problem, what to do, and all the talks and the discussions and what can be done, but there's nothing like people just having an emotional connection together to make change, rather than thousands of words about policies and that. Yeah, I'm rambling a bit now, but I think you know what I mean.
Yes, and I think also that's what Becky was doing,
Yes,
as she was there on site working with the refugees and being so passionate about all these texts that she made you read as well, or that she would tell you about. And I think it's that connection that you as a mom with her as a daughter, that never ends. And right, I have to quote back this podcast that I've been so inspired by podcasts. I mean, is anyone surprised here? I'm like listening to a million podcasts, but that's now going back to that On Being episode about loss, where the guest on the podcast shares that our story is never finished. I feel Rebecca's story, it isn't finished, and you are, as you are telling me her story continues. And as you are giving out those buttons to the refugees, a part of her is with them now, keeping them safe, right?
I love that idea. Of, yes, we continue not just in our physical body, but actually in terms of the changes that we make it with the people around us and other people. Then I just hope she won't be forgotten. So maybe I'll share with you, if we're talking about words and beautiful words, this one piece of poetry that I particularly love, and it's this. It's before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. And that's the beginning of a poem written by an American poet called Naomi Shihab Nye. And I often think of that. Becky was a very kind person, and we're doing kind things in Becky's bathhouse to these strangers, I suppose. But there's something so heartwarming about it, and so life enhancing. All right, and just that connection, that human connection, that relationship, that we do have with anyone and everyone. It's there. If we can connect at an emotional level, then maybe there would be shifts.
And I know there are very exciting things coming up this autumn. Do you want to tell us about it?
Words are so powerful, and I spent 11 years as a writer before losing my daughter, and I want to do more writing, and I want to give more opportunity to people to write. So I've set up the Rebecca Dykes Memorial Retreat in Pennsylvania in the US, and it's this November. It's going to be held in a place called Highlights, and people are going to come together to brainstorm about how to write about violent acts and violence in a way that is palatable for children. We have a distinguished group of writers who are coming to share their books and talk about creating them. And I'm going to offer a scholarship for a marginalised person who maybe normally wouldn't be able to afford to go. And we hope to get lots of ideas and to help each other and to write some books for children that will teach them, isn't the right verb really, but just tell them stories about violence in a way that might make them think twice about doing harm to other human beings when they grow up.
I love that. And stories are so powerful, right? I think I can speak for everyone, should I just dare to do it, that probably, okay, now I made it smaller by saying probably, but I mean, think back of your childhood, and I'm pretty sure there is that one story that you loved going back to, or that maybe it was in a book, maybe it was something your mom or dad told you, a grandparent told you when you were going to sleep. And when I'm seeing my children now, they experience the world through stories, and they make sense of it through stories.
Yes.
And that's so it's healing in a way. Stories, words, they have that power. And that's why we're going to keep telling stories here on the podcast as well.
Yes, nothing more powerful than a good story. And yes, if little children could read about the bad things that happen in life, because bad things do happen, but turn it in a way that they can manage it better, let's say, in the future, then any endeavour is worth doing, I believe.
Jane, I won't let you go. You know it, until you go through the quick fire round with me. Are you ready for this?
Why not?
Making an impact means
taking action. Action speaks louder than words.
Who inspires you in the way they are tackling the Sustainable Development Goals?
Jane Goodall is the woman that springs to mind, because I suppose by chance I've been reading her, I think it's her most recent book recently. It's called The Book of Hope. And she's 88 now, and she's still telling us that there is a chance to avert climate catastrophe. She is still telling us that, with the human intellect and resilience of nature, the spirit of young people, that things are going to get better. I love her for her hard work and her diligence and her passion about what she does.
And what could everyone do right now? Here we are, the cliche question. Jane, here
Another
it
cliche
is to wrap it
Another
up.
cliche coming, Regina.
To make the world a better place. What are we going to do after we stop listening to this episode? What could we do in that instant to make the world better?
Smile, but not a fake one, just some kind of connection that things are looking a little sad at the moment, but we're all in it, and we're in it together. And a quiet word of recognition, or a smile, or a thank you, just these very, very simple things, I think could make a very big difference.
Simple but powerful. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, Jane. I was so much looking forward to it, and I can't wait to read you more, hear you more, and yeah. I wish I could give you that hug again in person that we shared.
What they say?
You know, I'm doing it here with the screen now.
Oh, well, yes. Well, look, it's so kind of you to invite me, and thank you so very, very much. And I really look forward to listening to future podcasts. I mean, yours. And let's keep fighting. And those sustainable goals, so important, and how amazing, Regina, that you know you're so dedicated to what you do. I know you are, and we can make a difference, a little difference somewhere.